This is breaking news from News 8.
An officer and a couple other people shot in Northeast Rochester this afternoon. The police chief is about to give a press conference right now. Let's go live to the scene.
Yeah, Norton Street, there the chief is. Let's listen into what he's got to say about this situation right now.
Chief, do you mind waiting?
No problem.
Till we
I'm
get
on your clock.
commercial break? Do you guys mind if we wait out of commercial break? Back up a little.
All right, as you can see, the chief waiting a few minutes. The station's all gathering there for this news conference at this hour. The chief about to update us. We'll brief you on what we know about this investigation while the chief gets together and gets ready for this news conference. So what we know is this happened shortly after 4 o'clock. A report of multiple people shot from rural Metro, including an officer that was shot in the arm.
He is expected to be okay. Our Vanessa Herring is live out on the scene. Do we have Vanessa to give us a quick update before the chief is ready to talk?
Well, Rachel, I can tell you as there is still a heavy police presence here. About 3 blocks of Norton Street are blocked off. You could take a look just over my shoulder. Several police cars and dozens of officers are still here on the scene. A crowd has gathered as well. All of us kind of waiting to hear what the chief is going to say. He has told us he will be addressing all of us in just a few minutes. He is actually standing just across the street, and we're waiting to get more details. As you mentioned, an officer was involved in this shooting. That officer was shot in the arm and taken to Rochester General Hospital. We've heard reports from rural Metro that several other people were hurt in this shooting. We don't know exactly how they were involved, and we're hoping to learn that information when the chief addresses us in just a couple minutes. But again, just dozens of officers here, State Police, Brighton Police Department, Irondequoit Police, and of course officers from the Rochester Police Department. And it looks like the chief is coming over now to address us. Let's take a listen.
All right, Vanessa, let's listen in. Thank you.
What happened here at Goodman and Norton? Chief, can you tell us what exactly happened here, sir?
At approximately 4:04 this afternoon, the Rochester Police Department was involved in a shooting with a suspect who was wanted for the double homicide on Central Avenue. As a result of that incident, we have an officer who has been injured. At this point in time, we're waiting for additional information relative to his condition. The suspect was also injured, and we're waiting on follow-up information relative to his condition. An uninvolved motor vehicle operator was also injured in this incident, and we're waiting on additional information relative to his condition. And at this point in time, we have no further information to provide for you. What we'll do is later tonight, once we have a full briefing, we will sit down with you again and give you additional information.
Chief, is your officer alert, talking, telling us anything you guys are able to communicate with him?
At this point in time, we don't know his full condition, but we do believe that he'll be fine.
Chief, can you tell us exactly how this happened? My understanding is your tactical squad was following this suspect. What happened when they approached the suspect or tried to stop him?
Again, I won't get into the details of how we were brought to the attention of this individual. As I said before, he is the suspect for the double homicide from Central Avenue, and we'll give you a full briefing later on tonight.
Chief, can you tell us if
we wouldn't get into those details at this time.
Can you tell us if anyone else was hurt other than the suspect and that other person that was in the car?
And again, it was a police officer that was injured, shot. The suspect was shot, and an uninvolved motorist was also injured.
Does it appear any of those are life-threatening? I know it's early, Chief. Any of those appear to be life-threatening injuries?
I would not want to speculate at this point in time. So we're waiting for additional information to come to us, and we'll give you full information when we have that.
Is your understanding it was an extended pursuit, something of long nature, or just a matter of blocks?
I won't get into that at this time.
Can you tell us if multiple shots were fired at several officers or just the one officer who was involved in this shooting?
I am aware that there was an exchange of gunfire. An officer was injured. Suspect was injured.
Can you tell us what hospital those people were taken to?
The officer was taken to Rochester General, and the suspect was taken to Strong.
The exact location, Chief, and how far down is it blocked off here?
As you can tell by looking at the scene here, what we have is a very expansive scene. That is why we have such a large area cordoned off. We're still in the process of doing our investigation. Once we have additional information, we will give it to you.
But it did appear to unfold?
At this point in time, we are, like I said, we're looking for the suspect for the double homicide. That is the individual that we encountered, and we're at this point of our investigation.
And he's in police custody now, correct?
That is correct.
Were there any other suspects that were involved as well that may have got away, or was this just the one individual?
At this point in time, my understanding is that this is the individual that we were looking for, this is the individual that we encountered, and this is the end result.
Chief, often when you have an officer shot, I know you get a lot of officers that show up at the hospital, whether to give blood or things like that. Has that happened today?
At this point in time, I have not been to the hospital. I don't know the full extent of what our officers are doing in terms of support. We have a tremendous amount of resources here at the scene, so I don't think that we're in a position where we could have a lot of people there engaging in that activity. But I'm sure that people who are off duty will be at the hospital to give support for him and his family.
I know you have a large team, Chief. Was it centered just west of Goodman
in
here?
The car, the driver that was shot in the car, caught in the crossfire. Do you know which, was it a police bullet or a bullet from
At
the
this point in
suspect?
time, we have no idea what occurred. We'll go through the evidence and we'll make a determination at a later date.
And Chief, just could you define, is the scene primarily just west of Goodman? I know you have a large scene here.
The general area is Goodman and Yates.
Chief, this obviously speaks to the dangers that cops face when they deal with situations like this. Can you just talk about that?
It is significant. Obviously, on a daily basis, when we put that uniform on, when they put that vest on, there's the possibility of us being involved in these types of scenarios. Obviously, all of us are concerned. I think that anybody who wears this uniform, whether it's Rochester Police Department, Monroe County Sheriff's, New York State Police, we're all brothers in arms, and I'm sure that everybody's prayers are going out to our officer, and we hope the best. Same thing relative to our suspect, that at the end of the day, we hope that he recovers as well.
Are you getting cooperation from people in the area that may have witnessed any of this?
I won't get into the specifics of the investigation, this investigation, nor the one that led us to this conclusion, but like I said, we'll give you a full briefing later on tonight.
Can you tell us anything about the officer, how long he's been with the police department, any details about him?
Not at this point in time.
Can you tell us how many officers were down here when the shooting occurred?
I could not tell you that. I just knew that there were numerous officers in the general area as a result of our investigation.
Do you need any more information from any witnesses in this area, Chief?
We'll definitely do a neighborhood check. We'll go to numerous houses, locations, businesses. If there's people who have additional information, we will dig them out, and we'll make that part of our presentation. We all set, folks? Thank you very much.
All right, starting to piece together this puzzle in terms of this shooting on Norton and Goodman Street this afternoon. It happened at 4:04. You just saw Vanessa Herring there live on the scene. 4:04, the shooting happened between a police officer and a suspect. That suspect wanted in connection with the double homicide that happened on Central Avenue in the past few days. That happened across the street from Club Network. 2 people killed there. The suspect in this case shot, the officer shot in the arm, expected to be okay, and not the only person injured in this, Rachel.
Yes, the police chief said an uninvolved motorist was also hurt in this shooting. No conditions on the suspect and this motorist were available, so this motorist had nothing to do with this police pursuit, and it's also not clear who shot the motorist. Some of the victims taken to Rochester General Hospital, and that is where we find News 8's Amy Young.
Rachel, we are told that the Rochester police officer who was shot was taken here to Rochester General Hospital. Now, we are being kept off the property just down the road on a service road outside of the hospital. The hospital spokesperson is telling us that all the briefings here will come from the Rochester Police Department. But again, we do know that the Rochester police officer who was shot in the arm is up and talking and is expected to be okay. That was confirmation from the hospital spokesperson, Marty Ahrens. But again, 3 people, as you mentioned, including a Rochester police officer, shot at various locations in the Goodman-Norton Street neighborhoods around 4 o'clock this afternoon. Again, the RPD officer was taken here to Rochester General Hospital. We are told we will be getting a briefing from Rochester Police at any moment, and we will, of course, keep you up to date from here. Live at Rochester General Hospital, Amy Young, News 8.
All right, we're going to go back out to Vanessa Herring to give us a recap of what the chief just told us about this shooting. 3 people shot this afternoon at Norton and Goodman. Vanessa.
Well, Rachel, Police Chief Jim Shepard tells us that the police were tailing a suspect in a double homicide from Central Avenue. That one happened earlier this week outside of Club Network. That suspect then engaged officers in a shootout. An officer was shot in the arm. Another uninvolved motorist was also shot, and the suspect was shot as well. The officer was taken to Rochester General Hospital. The other 2 people were taken to Strong Hospital. He has not released any details about the officer who was involved in this shooting or the investigation. But again, 3 people were shot, an officer shot in the arm, a suspect in that double homicide from Central Avenue, and an uninvolved motorist. We don't have their conditions, but we do know that the officer was taken to Rochester General Hospital and the other 2 people were taken to Strong Hospital. Rachel?
Vanessa, while we have you here, let me ask you, the chief described kind of an exchange of gunfire at this point, but it still seems unclear. Rachel and I were talking about this. Who shot the uninvolved motorist who just happened to be driving by when this all played out? Police don't really know that yet, do they?
Sure, and Chief Shepard kind of dodged that question. He didn't really want to answer it right now. He was asked, what bullet shot the person who was not involved in this pursuit, and he said still too early in the investigation to tell. Of course, as this investigation continues, it's likely we'll find out. But again, it's just still too early to tell who exactly shot that person who was not involved. Matt?
All right, Vanessa, thank you very much. So, Rachel, let's recap what we know for our viewers. 4:04, the call coming in. Shots exchanged between an RPD officer and a suspect wanted in connection with that double homicide on Central Avenue earlier this week. The officer shot in the arm, expected to be okay. The suspect also shot, unclear on the extent of his injuries at this hour, Rachel.
Yes, and a third person, an uninvolved motorist, was also hit by this exchange of gunfire. Not clear who hit that motorist. Still a very active police scene in this area of Goodman and Norton Street, and police said this suspect that they were pursuing that led to this shooting was a suspect in the double homicide on Central Avenue. That happened early Monday morning across from Club Network. So this will be a very active scene throughout the evening. It's probably best to avoid that area as many streets are shut down. We will be right back.